Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Quinn. Thank you for clicking on the video. So it's November 1st, which means it is officially time for an October wrap-up and a November TBR. Listen, I know I said that during October I would be doing a bunch of reading vlogs, and then I just didn't. It's not that I didn't film them, I actually did film them. However, I found that they all came across very much like a rough draft, which isn't the vibe I'm going for. I don't want to put things out there that I don't feel good about, and that was sort of how I felt when I was rewatching some of the things. I think they were really good practice runs because I could tell what I liked, what I didn't like, what I wanted to change, what things I wanted to keep, and all of that. What are you doing? Come here, crazy. That's just a little update on my plans and what I've been up to. I am also currently working on a video for my other channel. It's going to be actually reading vlog, more like a reading vlog structure than I was originally planning. This is probably just gonna be for, I'll talk about that in a little bit. I think it's just gonna be for a specific series, which I'll touch on later on in this video. But the reason for that is it's kind of going to be a live reaction almost. So I'm at the end of each chapter, I'm sort of recapping what happened in the chapter and my thoughts on it. And I think that'll be very fun and interesting, and a little different than I think most of the time I see people do things. I'm not saying I'm the only one who's ever done that. I'm just saying that I haven't seen it. And I think it would be cool. In the future, I want to do sit down videos. So after all that housekeeping, without further ado, let's get into my October wrap up. So yeah, I moved the camera around a little bit. I'm still working out like the right angle to do things with. My biggest issue right now is that I keep looking at myself in the viewfinder instead of looking at the camera. When something is further away, like it's easier to do that because, you know, it all looks like I'm looking at the camera. But this is about as far back as my camera can go with the way this angle and setup is, because there's a window like directly behind the camera, and I do that for like lighting reasons, and I'm fighting against time. The sun will set soon. I procrastinated literally everything I needed to do today. Anyway, all that being said, it's time to do the October wrap up. So I actually ended up, when I posted my October TBR, I think there were like 18 books on there. I did not read 18 books. I read 6, which is not bad. I finished 6 books. So the first book I finished, I actually should have mentioned, or I considered mentioning when I did my TBR, but it was kind of awkward timing because I started and finished it on October 1st, and I didn't film my October TBR until like October 4th or October 5th, which means that I sadly, or I didn't know like whether to include it or not. So I'm including it in this. That book is Mary, a Fiction by Mary Wollstonecraft, who is the mother, if you don't know, this is the mother of Mary Shelley, or Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. I had to read this for my Women in Lit class. It's not a fantastic book. The biggest thing, and this book has both Mary, a Fiction, and The Wrongs of Woman, or Maria, which is an unfinished novel by Mary Wollstonecraft. And one of the things that keeps happening, that I feel like happened with Mary, a Fiction, and my professor said happened in Maria as well, she kind of writes where she's understandably angry at the way women are viewed and treated and all of that, and then she sort of like hits a brick wall where she's like, yeah, but I don't have a solution. And instead of just kind of almost acknowledging there's no solution, she just ends the book. And it's like she just writes until she can't write anymore, and then, you know, whatever. I think her ideas are fantastic. I think the concept is very interesting, especially with like, it's semi-autobiographical autobiographical, and there's a lot of stuff in it, and I thought it was fantastic. It was short. It was like 75 pages in this version. But I did enjoy it. It just, I mean, it wasn't fantastic. I think if I hadn't been reading it if it hadn't been as short as it was, and if I hadn't been reading it for school and then had a discussion about it and talked about it and stuff, I would not have gotten as much out of it. I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. I think most of my enjoyment from the book definitely came from talking about it with like my class and my classmates and my professor and all of that. Like having that discussion was I think more enjoyable than the actual reading of the book itself. Though, lesbians. There are lesbians. We love lesbians. So the next book that I finished was actually on audio. And that was The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshni Chokshi. I think I'm gonna say that's my number one read for this month, hands down. I don't know why I phrased it that way. Like, it was 100% the best book that I read this month. I'm going in order that I finished them, but this was the best book that I read. I absolutely adore Roshni Chokshi's writing. I think her prose is so it's not even that, like, it's lyrical, but like that's not like I can't articulate why. I've tried so often to try and articulate like why I love her writing so much, and I don't know why, but I do. Like, it just, like, the storyline was super interesting, and I love that like, I don't want to spoil too much about it, but you should definitely read it. I love how the way that the magic system in this book, the way it's done, it very much, I would almost call it like magical surrealism. Like, there's a part of you that's like, oh, magic is real, and there's a part of you that, like, even at the end, like, and there's a part of you that's like, no, there's no magic. And that question is never fully really answered, and I loved it. I loved it. The magic, like, it's technically, I would call it a fantasy novel, even if the magic isn't real. Like, it reads like a fantasy novel, 100%. I typically don't like it when the magic takes such a backseat that you're just kind of like, I don't even know what's going on. But it was so well done in this book. And the twist at the end, beautiful. Something that I have a lot of issues with in books is I just tend to figure out the twist well before the twist happens. And so books can feel very predictable. Whereas with this twist, I guess, like, part of it, or I'd like wondered if part of it was the case. Like, I had like a couple options in my head of like what the plot twist could be. I say plot twist, but like whatever like, well, yeah, we'll say plot twist, because there's a very mysterious vibe, so it's kind of, you know, a little bit of like also solving the mystery. But I had a couple ideas on what it could be, and I was simultaneously right and wrong. Like, there was part of it that I was like, oh yeah, like, I got that. I figured that one out early, but then there was a part of it that I actually was not expecting, which is so rare, and which I very much appreciated, but it also didn't feel like it came out of nowhere, or wasn't something that, like, it was hinted at, and like I had like briefly considered, and then I'm like, no. And I only considered it because I read a book that had a similar twist, like years and years and years ago. But anyway, very good, highly recommend, gave it a 5-star. I don't typically, like, I rate my books, but I don't like focus too much on the rating. I just find, like, I used to focus a lot on the rating, like 5 stars, 4 stars, whatever, and then it just felt so stressful, like I had to assign numerical value to it, and so sometimes I'd feel like pressured, like, oh, I really loved this book, I need to give it a 5-star, but then I'd feel like, it's not as much as like other books, and then I'd give it like a 4.5, and I'm like, and so I try not to do that, but I will say, like, I do still rate them, and I only include that this is a 5-star read because I feel like it's important to my point of how much I loved it. Anyway, the next book that I read and finished was A Treachery of Swans by A.B. Poranek. I need to learn how to pronounce her name. I think I mentioned this in my October TBR, but I was really unsure if I was even going to get around to reading this month. Or like last month, I guess, technically. I was really unsure about whether I was going to even get around to reading it this month, like after October. I was like, maybe in October, maybe November, who knows? Maybe it'll wait till December. Like, I was like, really, whatever. But once I like had it in the TBR, I was like, no, actually, I'm so excited to read this book. And I did. It was very enjoyable. Very, very enjoyable. There is nothing all that special about it, and I don't mean that as an insult. It's not reinventing the wheel. It was decently predictable. It was pretty well written. Like, there was nothing that made it like, it wasn't like, oh my god, this is the best writing, or this is the best, or like, I didn't see this coming, or, you know, anything like that. Almost all of it was very much a typical YA romantasy, which is just YA fantasy, because apparently we can't market to teen girls without it being romance heavy. But that's a topic from another day, for another day, another video, and another channel. But I'm sure I will have a video in the next year come out about my thoughts on that. But anyway, all that being said, I did very much enjoy this book. It was a fun read. It was like, that's all, and I don't want to say that's all it was, because something being fun is all it has to be. But it was good. I enjoyed it. I think it was a nice, enjoyable read. So yeah, this one I feel like I felt like with The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, I couldn't even give you a synopsis of what it is without feeling like I'm going to spoil something, which is why I avoided it. But with this one, I can tell you bare bones, it is a Swan Lake retelling, and a queer Swan Lake retelling that was, in my opinion, done very well. Like, again, not reinventing the wheel, but it doesn't have to. So, would recommend. The next book I finished was I also read on audio, in one day, which is the case with Last Tale of the Flower Bride. I don't know if I mentioned that. I read that, listened to it in finished it in one day. And that is The Sun and the Star by Rick Riordan. So I listened to this when my family we were driving back, or we were driving from my apartment. My mom picked me up, picked up my brother, and then we drove back to my parents' house for reading week. And we drove back to my parents' house for reading week. And during that, during the car ride, I listened to an audiobook. I cannot read a physical book in the car. I tend to be okay with ebooks, but I do much better if I can just listen to audiobooks. I get motion sickness in a car. I love roller coasters. I can do roller coasters, but a car, that makes me feel sick. I don't get it either. But anyway, I really did want to read The Sun and the Star a while ago when it first came out, because I love Nico and Will. However, as much as I was a huge fan of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, of the Heroes of Olympus, and of the Kane Chronicles, the most recent two series that he had released, which was the Magnus Chase series. Is that called The Tales of Asgard? I don't remember. I want to say that's what it was, but it might have been like Magnus Chase and the Tales, I don't know. But the Magnus Chase series and the Trials of Apollo series, I did not love them all that much. I think some of it could have been that I had just sort of aged out of that, but I also think some of it is it just was not as strong as his earlier series, which, you know, to each their own. If you like it, I'm so glad, because I wanted to like it. But because of that, I had sort of been not ignoring, but I had been a little avoidant of picking up any new Rick Riordan books, because especially The Sun and the Star, because I very much wanted to like it, and I didn't, more to the point, I did not want to dislike it. So I was really worried I was gonna dislike it. But I was like, you know what? The audiobook is available to borrow from the library. I am gonna be stuck in a car. Might as well read something that is hopefully gonna be an enjoyable read. And it was. I very much enjoyed it. Not quite as much as The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, and I don't necessarily... I was gonna say I don't like it as much as as his other books, but that's not actually true. I do think I liked it as much as I liked like his other series, like his earlier series that I liked. I also think that it tackles some pretty heavy topics in a way that is digestible for a middle grade audience, which is like a young teen, preteen audience. I think it does a really good job talking about those things and the way that it affects people, and I did cry a little bit because, like, looking back, like, when I was reading the Percy Jackson series and Heroes of Olympus, I did not realize it, but now that I'm older, looking back on it, there's a lot about Nico D'Angelo, who is, you know, one of the two main characters in this book, that I really, really relate to. And like I said, there's a lot of discussions of mental illness, particularly in regards to Nico. And I don't, like, if you're familiar with Percy Jackson and Heroes of Olympus, you know that, like, Nico's been through some shit. Poor guy. But I didn't click with me when I was younger, when I was in the throes of the worst of my mental health, and I don't want to get too much into it, but like looking back at it and reading the story of what is partially him recognizing and going through a healing journey, having been through my own healing journey, actually, I think this is one of my favorite Rick Riordan books. I don't know why I said I don't think it's as I don't think I would have liked it as much when I was younger. I also don't think that I mean, it doesn't hold the same nostalgia for me, but I think it was so well done. And oh, he wrote it with somebody else, and I cannot remember their name. Mark. I know his first name is Mark. I don't know what his last name is. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I think they did such a fantastic job in terms of making a fantastical version of a healing journey. And I thought it was, like I said, I thought it was so well done as somebody who's been through, not quite, I haven't been through what he's been through, but I have been on my own healing journey. And it was well done. Anyway, the next book that I read was The House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. I don't have the physical copy with me, but I actually read it mostly physically, but also on audiobook. But it was while I was back at my parents' house for reading week, and I actually didn't bring the physical book back up with me, which is why I don't have it right now. But a very enjoyable read. I think if I had read it back when I first, because this is one of the first books that I like really purchased, like when I was starting to amass my own like collection of books. It was one of the first books that I purchased, but I also purchased it because of like Bookstagram and stuff, and I felt like I had been let down a lot with Bookstagram and its recommendations, so I never actually got around to reading it when I was 16. If I read that book at 16, it would have been one of my favorites. Now I liked it. It is a dark fantastical retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, and I thought it was very, very interesting, very well done. And I will say, like, for being a young adult fantasy book, I found that it really didn't it definitely had a romance in it, but it definitely was fantasy with a romance subplot, which again, just as the reason why at 16 I would have ate that shit up. Oh my god, I would have loved it. But I never got around to reading it, and I do regret that because, like I said, I think I would have enjoyed it even more than I enjoyed it reading it now at 21. But dark fantastical retelling, the romance is very much a subplot. It's there, it's unavoidable, but you could also remove the romance subplot and it would not really affect too much of the book, which is why I don't consider it like a typical romantasy, because the romance, at least reading it from a technical like author point of view, it is not crucial to the story. So if you removed that character, there's a couple things you would have to like, a couple holes you'd have to fill, but none of them are related to the romance. The romance could be completely removed and it would not change the story that much, which I did appreciate because that's the way that I like my romance in books. So very, very big fan of that aspect as well. So definitely recommend that book. Which brings me to the last book that I read and finished this month. And I only finished it because I had to for school. And that is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Listen, okay, I get that this is like I can understand parts of like why this was such like became what it is, but I did not like it. I honestly, yeah, I just didn't. There are parts of it that I didn't mind. There are parts of it that I thought were interesting. There was parts of it that I thought were good. But it is a romance. At its core, it is a gothic romance, which is fine. I've read gothic romance. I read a Sicilian romance. Absolutely loved that, though that actually not nearly as much of a romance as one might think with the title. Like, it's there, don't get me wrong. There's definitely a romance, but it's not as much as one might think from the title, A Sicilian Romance, which is a whole aside. Love that. I will probably do a sit-down video about that book because I think it's so good. I think it's so good and it's so bad and it's so fantastic and I love it. Oh my god, it's so good. Anyway, but Jane Eyre, gothic romance, not for me. If you like it, good power to you. I am so happy for you. I love it. I love it when people love books because it's, even if I dislike the books, but oh my god, I don't understand how you can. Anyway, the writing isn't terrible. Like, it's not like I'm reading it and I'm like, oh my god, this is atrocious. There were some weird things, like some things that I think she revised and didn't fully revise the rest of the sentence, because I'm like, wait, what? But other than that, I also don't like the whole like, hey, we're gonna forgive toxic men when they don't deserve it. Don't love that. But my feelings about this book can basically be summed up in this. So I've made it no secret. I don't think I made it a secret in my October TBR. I definitely won't be making it a secret with what I'm going to be discussing on my other channel, Right Pages. But wow, I'm losing sunlight. Anyway, it also got really cloudy before the sun even set, so. But I made no secret that I don't like excusing toxic men and toxic behaviors in men simply because it's fiction, but also because they're attractive. But my thoughts on this book can be summed up to me going, and he isn't even attractive? This man has nothing going for him because he's a piece of shit. I hate him. Like, from the moment he opened his mouth, it's not just that he's like toxic, it's like even like some of the like, you know, love interests in dark fantasy or dark romantasy and stuff, or just romantasy in general, let's be completely honest, a lot of them, I can see there's charisma. This man doesn't even have that. Like, he is literally just a piece of shit from start to finish. He's not attractive. He's not all that rich. And even if he were, she doesn't want his money. And like, then there's the whole, and I don't want to spoil it if you haven't read it, the plot twist. If you don't know it, if you read it, you'll know the plot twist. I don't like it. I don't like this book. But I really don't like that man. And I think that we can just sum it up there. Don't like the man, and he has nothing going for him. He's not attractive, he's not rich, he's not nice, he is not charismatic, he's rich, but he's not that rich, right? Like, and she's not taking advantage of him being rich. That's not even a thing going for him. I'm like, why? And he's old, and like, I don't mean that as like, she's 18, he's 40. Like, yeah, it's not illegal, but like, it feels like it should be. But even though like it isn't, like, I'm sorry, you're 40, what, and technically, and she's his governess. Well, not his governess, but like, she's employed by him, sort of. Anyway, not a great, I have many a thought. I did enjoy talking about it. Once again, I enjoyed the discussion with my class and my professor and stuff like that, but I did not enjoy the book itself. And we'll just leave it there. And the final one, I'm actually going to continue this month, and that is Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. I only read a chapter, and then I got really sucked into work and stuff, like schoolwork, but also like my actual job, which I'm still kind of just started, but yeah, so I had like shifts for that and all of that, so I just haven't gotten around to reading more than a chapter. And God, it is so fun to hate it. It is so fun to hate it. But this was the book that I was mentioning when I said that I had a reading vlog, live reaction, rant review, whatever you want to call it, ready to come out on my other channel. Not ready to come out, going to come out, that I am working on for my other channel, and it is a live-ish, almost live reaction to Twilight as a 21-year-old lesbian reading it for the first time. And yes, that's what the book, or probably what that's probably what the video title will be, is like 21-year-old lesbian reads Twilight for the first time. And then that'll probably just be the like continuing theme for each of the books, for the reading vlogs for each of those books. But so I have so many thoughts. I had to refilm my reaction to this first chapter like 12 times because I kept going on tangents that I did not need to go on. And I was like talking about a car for like 15 minutes, and I was like, we don't need to do that. There are 25 chapters. We can't do a half hour for each one. Hopefully it won't end up being that way. But yeah, so this, not only did I start it last month, but I am planning to finish it this month and have a video out for you guys. That brings me to the next part of this video, which will hopefully be shorter because I haven't read these things, so I don't have thoughts on them, and that is my November TBR. So I have it like sort of divided. I should just continue with the pile that, so Twilight I'm planning to do a video on, and then if I can get a recording space sort of at all set up, then I will do this. If not, I'll probably save it, and that is Long Live Evil. Long Live Evil by Sarah Rees Brennan. I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to do a video on it, but I think that like just in concept it would be a really interesting book to do a video on. And keep in mind, I don't want to do videos only on things that I dislike. Even Twilight, like I am loving hating it. Like, that's my feelings about it, okay? I am loving to hate this book. it is so fun to hate. And I mean no like ill will to anybody or like do it with any nefarious intentions. I just like shitting on books I think are shitty, but also reading them is fun for me. With this, I think it could go either way. The entire concept seems very entertaining, whether I like it or not. I think it'll make a very interesting long form video as I give my thoughts. Maybe I should just start filming them all as reading vlogs and give live reactions. We'll see. We'll see. So those are the books that I'm considering doing videos on. I might also do the rest or another book in the Twilight series. However, I don't want to put that on myself because I probably won't end up doing it. So that brings me to the next pile, which is books that I have to read for school, which means that these are books I'm going to finish, whether I want to or not. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about these, but the first book that I have to read is for my Women in Lit class that I have to have done by the 5th. So we got like 4 days. But that is The Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys. Jean Rhys. Yeah. I'm probably messing up something. I'm very tired. I'm bad with names. Anyway, I'm actually very excited to read it. So for those of you who don't know, this is a post-colonial reinterpretation of Jane Eyre. It kind of serves more as a prequel about a very important character in Jane Eyre. Skip forward like 30 seconds if you really don't want, if you know nothing about Jane Eyre, want to read it and don't want spoilers. It's about Mr. Rochester's first wife. Yeah. Anyway, but I'm very excited to read it because I think like it's examining sort of some of the worst parts of Jane Eyre and re-examining that, and I'm very excited to do that, and I love talking with my class. Like we just have such a good conversation, so I'm very excited for that because I think I'm gonna enjoy it. So my next book that I have to read, I don't know when I have to read it by. I'm gonna like give up trying to say that. I just knew this because I had to have it read by Thursday. So the next book that I have to read is for my gender studies class, and I'm doing these in the order I have to read them in. Oh yeah, the Wide Sargasso Sea is like 171 pages. Like it's very short, and it's not like the pages are that, like it's not like they're like the text is, you know, that small or it's that like jammed on the page, which, you know, is fine, but so hopefully it'll be a quick read. This one will be an even quicker read. I have to read it for my gender studies class, and that is Land to Light On by, I'm gonna say Diane. I'm so sorry. My gut says Diane or Dione, but I'm really bad with names. But it is like it's a poetry collection. So it's gonna be quite short, because it's only 103 pages, and that's not including like all of the like title pages, but like some of the pages are not full, so it'll be a super quick read. We'll see how I feel. Poetry can be very hit or miss for me, depending on the type of poetry. Sometimes I can love some poetry. A lot of poetry I don't like, just depending on the way that it's formatted. And I don't like super long poetry, though none of these are necessarily that long. There's just a lot of them. Like it's more like a collection. So I think I'll like that. The next book I have to read is The Awakening by Kate Chopin, which I'm reading for my Women in Lit class. It's another shorter one. I want to say it's like 127 pages. Not all of this is that. Like this is how long it is. So it's not like terribly long, but I don't know why we're spending 2 weeks on it as well, which is the same thing that we did with Jane Eyre. We spent 2 weeks on Wide Sargasso Sea. We spent 2 weeks on. And then we're going to spend 2 weeks on that, and then we're spending 2 weeks on this one. Don't know why we're spending that long on it, but we are. Actually, that might just be because we have an essay due the second week, so that could be why, is so that we can also not be too stressed about needing to finish it in a week. That could be part of it. Which brings me to the last book that I have to read, this time for my gender studies class, and that is Beloved by Toni Morrison. I'm very excited. I actually don't know what, I'm intentionally keeping myself in the dark about like much in the way of details about this book, just because I kind of want to go in blind. I already read Toni Morrison's A Mercy for my Women in Lit class, because there's a decent chunk of overlap in like content you would imagine between an English gender studies class and a Women in Lit class. Very much, we have one book that I have to read for both classes, but this one, very, very excited. I've heard, obviously, Beloved is like one of those books that like, I feel like you don't need to know anything about, but you've still heard of it. And so I've intentionally kept myself in the dark because I kind of want to go in blind, and sort of let it surprise me. I very much enjoyed A Mercy, so I think I will like Beloved. I don't like this lighting. I mean, like, it's not great, but like, it could be worse. So those are the books I have to read for school. The other that I will just sort of put a caveat in here, I still need to finish Fall on Your Knees. I haven't read any of it. I need to read some of it. But I don't know if I'm gonna get this done, to be completely honest. I enjoyed it, but don't know if I'm gonna get it done. I'm not counting it towards it, even though I should probably do so. So that brings me to my next section, which is just like sort of regular generic books that I want to read. Maybe I'll make a video on them, but more likely than not, they'll just show up in a reading vlog and then I won't do anything specifically dedicated to the books, but that could be different. These are in no particular order. Actually, they're in size order, in terms of their height. That's the order they're in, because yeah. So the first on the list is actually the one that I sort of added at the end. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna get around to this book. To be completely honest, I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna get around to a lot of these books, but that's neither here nor there. And that book is The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. Alex E. Harrow? Yeah, we'll go with Harrow. I feel like that's what most people say is Harrow. So it's Harrow because that's I love Harrow the Ninth. Why? And they're spelled the same. I'm so dumb. Anyway, like I said, I'm bad with names. But anyway, The 10,000 Doors of January. This is another book that I got. I think I got this book like 4 years ago now, okay? It's been a while. And I've had it for a while and I no longer remember what it's about. And I am not going to refresh my memory on what it is about. I am going to try and go in without much knowledge. And that is because I can. So I will explain part of the reason why I picked this up in a bit. You'll figure it out. So the next book I am so excited for. Even if I don't get I had considered, so I didn't own the book until, yeah, I actually mentioned the book in my October TBR, but I didn't own it and I did not know if it was out or not. It was. And I picked up a copy while I was home for reading week, but I just didn't get around to reading it in October, and I kind of wish I had, but you know, life happens. And that is Savage Blooms by S.T. Gibson. For those of you who don't know, S.T. Gibson wrote one of my favorite books of all time, which is A Dowry of Blood. Such a good, technically it's a novella. It's so good. I loved her writing in A Dowry of Blood. Her writing in An Education in Malice, I did not like An Education in Malice as much as I did not like An Education in Malice as much as I liked A Dowry of Blood, but I hope that I like it, but I still enjoyed it, and I hope that is the case with this. It is the first book in a series, and I really should not start any more series that aren't completed, because I have a habit of starting them and then just not continuing them. but still purchasing the books as they come out, but I just don't always read them, that's on me, guys. Sorry about that. Not that it affects you, but you know what I mean. But yeah, that is what I am going to be doing. Hopefully won't be doing with this series, but we'll see how I feel about it, because I could dislike it. I doubt that I will not like it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to like it. I just might not like it as much. Next book is Starling House by Alix E. Harrow. And that is why I ended up picking this up. My plan is, if I'm very interested in reading this. I kind of wish I had picked it up at the end of October instead of now, but you know, things happen. But if I really like it, I plan to read 10,000 Doors of January, mostly because I got recommended this book by someone. It might have been online. And it seemed really interesting. And then I was like, wait, I actually have an Alix E. Harrow book, because I always forget this book is by her. And so I was like, you know, if I read this and I like it, I should read that. That was my thought process there. The next book is a book that I have started a while ago, and I just have not finished it despite really enjoying it. And that is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I own nine Brandon Sanderson books, and I have yet to finish a single book by him. So that needs to change, because that's absolutely ridiculous. I think that is one of the most ridiculous things that I have ever done. But yeah, I know I'm gonna like it. I've enjoyed what I've read so far. I don't know where I'm at exactly. Very much enjoyed what I've read. It's just a lot, and again, I think school got I was reading it at the end of last semester, and then finals season happened, and so I had to put it down, and I just never picked it back up, but I did enjoy it. So the last book in this section was also on my October TBR. Actually, I think it's one of the only things in this collection that's on my October TBR, but here we are, and that is Babel by R.F. Kuang. I really do feel like November is peak Dark Academia book reading time, but at the same time, it's also like when things really ramp up for school, so maybe I should stop expecting to read or focus Dark Academia in November, when I probably am not going to be able to get around to it, but that is irrelevant. It's fine. But yeah, I'm super excited to get around to it. I know people have had mixed feelings about Babel, and even more mixed feelings about Catabasis, whatever, which is her most recent book. I know people have had really mixed feelings about that. I don't really care all that much, but yeah, so I'm excited to pick it up, finally. Well, I picked it up, but you know what I mean. I'm excited to finally read it. This final section that I've come to needs a little bit, I'm gonna say introduction, a little bit of context. It's not necessary, except to explain why I have it in a separate category. And that is that I have recently started a job. This is technically the last day of my second week, even though I didn't work today. I worked yesterday. But some of my shifts for that job are related to shipments, related to folding and rearranging the store and stuff like that. I don't want to give too many details because I don't want to tell people where I work, but there's a lot of either overnight or earlier shifts to deal with shipment, etc., etc. So during those times, I can often listen to something in my ears, even if it's just in one ear. So because of that, I want to have an audiobook section, which are books that I'm either only going to read on audio, and I don't necessarily, a lot of them I don't actually have the physical copies, but they're books, but also books that I feel like I can listen to passively, and not get so sucked into that if I get interrupted by somebody talking to me and need to take it out, it's not going to be oh, somebody's interrupting my audiobook, or anything like that. So That being said, I did listen to Jane Eyre during one of my overnight shifts, part of it, for a very slim part of it, but that was mostly out of necessity. But it's also easier because then I don't have to try and bring a physical book with me for like breaks and stuff, is I can just listen to it on audiobook. I actually didn't do that for most of them. I was just listening to either a podcast or something. But I feel like I want to have a list of audiobooks that, you know, maybe I want to read. And that's what this section is, especially because I'm currently on the free 60-day trial for the Kobo's Read and Listen, which is like Kobo Plus Read and Listen, which includes about, I looked it up, it's like 150,000 audiobooks are included, including one that this is number one on my list, the first one on my list, but I mentioned my October TBR, which is an autopsy of a fairy tale. I sort of talked about how I struggled a lot trying to find or be able to read that book because they don't, like, Spotify only lets it, like, you can only get it through audiobook. I haven't seen any ebook or anything like that, which I think is really interesting. But unfortunately, like, Spotify has it, but my library didn't. Neither, like, my public library nor the school library had the audiobook available. Like, it's not even a possibility to get. Like, it comes up and says, like, there's no match. Like, you can't even request for for them to go out and get it. And I couldn't find, like, it anywhere until I actually found that it was included on Kobo Plus in their Listen, but they don't have an ebook version. I have not seen any ebook version of this book either, which is kind of strange, but, you know, whatever. But I saw that and I was like, you know what, I've been hemming and hawing about this, so I decided to start my free trial period for it. So I want to read that, but also to test out whether this is something I want to keep doing. That is number one. Number two on that list is Wuthering Heights. I feel like I do enjoy reading or listening to classics a lot. Like, I find, you know, it's not necessarily the easiest way. Like, there's a lot of classics I enjoy reading physically, and I have enjoyed reading, like, I've read part of Wuthering Heights physically, but I feel like when it comes to, because they tend to be a little bit slower in pace, I find them easier to listen to when I'm doing other things, compared to, like, a lot of faster paced books where it's like you zone out for like 2 seconds and suddenly, like, your 50 things have happened that you've missed and you have to go back, which is why I think it's helpful to do for work. The next is gonna be, I'm probably gonna finish it on audio, but I do have a physical copy and I would probably read part of it in physical copy as well, and that is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This was also on my October TBR, and I just didn't get around to reading it, or Wuthering Heights, which was also on my October TBR, because, yeah. I don't know why I didn't include that. I think I read, like, listened to, like, the first 7 chapters of Wuthering Heights. Might not be that many. It might have been, like, 4 chapters now that I think about it. But I did listen to some of it. I just didn't record it. Like, I didn't put it down, which is why I forgot about it until just now. Anyway, but yeah, very excited to read this. I think it's also quite short, but I think listening to the audiobook will help. I'm excited. So that brings me to this last book, so to give a little bit of I mentioned it earlier, I think, when I was talking about Savage Blooms, which is, I have a habit of not finishing series. Either I will start the first book, like the first book, and keep collecting the rest of the series, like purchasing the books but not actually reading them, or I will read, like, all of them but the last book. This is not always the case. A lot of them I have, like, finished a lot of series. I read fantasy books, which are mostly series, so I kind of have to like have read mostly series, but sometimes that just happens. And that latter example of just not finishing the final book or not even reading any part of the final book is the case with this one. I have the physical copy, but also if I enjoy the audiobook, it's something that I will definitely try listening to while I'm at work. And that is The Prisoner's Throne by Holly Black. It is the second book in the Stolen Heir duology. I think it's a duology. Does it say? Yeah, it's a duology. But this is the second novel in the duology, but it is also the second series in her like Folk of the Air trilogy, which has these 3 books. The Cruel Prince trilogy, whatever you want to call it. And it also has How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories. I enjoyed that book actually. It's gorgeous. It has like illustrations, and the illustrations are just like stunning. Oh, it's so good. Like I don't remember, I remember very little, like I remember the basic premise of them, but like this is what stood out to me. Then I read The Stolen Heir. I liked The Stolen Heir alright. I mean, it wasn't my favorite. I much preferred the first 3 books, or like honestly the first 4, but I enjoyed it well enough, so now I want to finish it. So that was my October wrap-up and my November TBR. My October wrap-up, 6 out of 18, that's a third of the books. That's actually not that great. It could be worse. I thought it was worse. Could have been worse. But the November TBR, slightly less ambitious than the October TBR. It is 15 books, 16 if you include Fall on Your Knees, which I'm not exactly including. But yeah, that's not as bad. It's less ambitious than 18. But anyway, I do hope to read a little bit more this month than I did last month, just because I hopefully won't have the same unfortunate situation where I just kept reading books that I just didn't necessarily feel like I wanted to read, and then I'd get distracted. And you know, I don't love when even if I plan to come back to the book, I don't love it when I don't finish books, because it sort of is almost disheartening. A little bit, not because I feel like, oh, I have to read the book or I have to finish the book, not at all. It's just that, especially when there's multiple in a row, which is what happened in October, I just feel like disappointed. Like I'm like, oh, I wish I would have been in the mood to finish this book, and so I just like become discouraged and feel like, oh, that's just gonna be the case with all of these books, so why bother, and you know, whatever. But I was busy, I started a new job, I have a bunch of schoolwork that's due like tomorrow, so yeah, I'm totally not filming this video to procrastinate. But all of that being said, I hope you guys had a fantastic October, a fantastic Halloween, and a fantastic Thanksgiving, if you're Canadian, and I hope you guys will have a great November, no matter how many books you read, and a great Thanksgiving if you are American. But yeah, I am so excited to sort of get into these last couple months of 2025 and finally sort of close the book on this. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!